Joining me now here on the Knicks Film School pregame show with the Knicks taking their talents down to South Beach to take on the Miami Heat on Friday night. I had to go back down to South Beach to get my good friend who I stumbled across one of his tweets the other day where he was drinking the haterade on the New York Knicks, the surging New York Knicks, who since the last time the two teams played each other have swapped positions in the Eastern Conference standings. The Knicks are trending up, the Heat not so much. Let's see what Giancarlo Navas has to say about it. Giancarlo, welcome back. How you doing today, sir?
Andrew, you're, I got so many tweets saying I followed you after I heard you on Andrew's podcast because you seem level-headed, and I'm just noticing that you're just a big hater. And I'm like, listen, I'm a hater first and an analyst second. Everything comes after being a hater. I am the CEO of hating the Sixers and Knicks.
I think that's where we find common ground because I've taken more than my fair share of shots at not only the Miami Heat, but little brother across the river in Brooklyn. So whenever I've reached out to get a Nets fan on here or a Nets personality on here, they almost have to tread lightly and be like, yeah, I went on with Claudio, even though he's been laughing at our team all season. And look, I joke around that the rivalry is back, but I'm actually very curious how much of a rivalry this can be when one team since December 4th in the New York Knicks has the second best net rating in the NBA. And the other team, since the beginning of the season, the Miami Heat, are in the bottom 7, last I checked, in net rating. And look, I just from the few games I've watched them play, their offense seems to struggle. And like we talked mostly about the Kyle Lowry struggles and some of the roster fit. I should also mention last time we talked was before the trade deadline. So it was like, what could happen? What might they do? And now we're past it, and the Heat have lost 5 of 6 last night, losing to a Sixers team without Joel Embiid. So I ask you once again, my friend, how are the vibes in Miami?
As bad as they can be, Andrew. Man. People are trading Jimmy Butler today. They're saying not because Jimmy's bad, because they're like, this is done. This team has run its course. We should flip Jimmy for picks and some kind of young player to, as quickly as we can, rebuild around Bam so Bam doesn't leave. The Celtics are like the team that everyone's scared of that he'd go to. He's just saying way too many nice things about Jalen and Jason and Marcus Smart and Mazzulla. He said, there's a lot of stuff. We're not. Heat fans are uneasy and they want to make them happy, so they feel like. And I think there's, I don't subscribe to trading Jimmy, but there is some validity to they are in cap hell. They have no way to fix it. Even without Lowry or Duncan's deal, they have a lot of guys like Tyler's extension is coming up. Bam just got extended for a lot of money. Jimmy has a supermax looming. Caleb is signed for another 2 years. Victor Oladipo has a player option next year, and he hasn't been like really great either. So they have their fair share of problems for improving the team, and with an ownership that it would appear that is not willing to pay the luxury tax unless it's a for sure, like, okay, this is going to be like a great team if I pay this kind of deal. So they're, Riley and Andy Ellsberg are kind of handcuffed with that. Understandably, they're going to be a tax team next year because of the extensions that kind of kick in. So I think the goal is to avoid the repeater tax. But Andrew, vibes are rancid, bro. They're rancid, man. Everyone's mad. Everyone's sad. Everyone hates each other. It's not fun here. It is sunny and hot, but it's not fun.
Can't relate there. First of all,
listen, it was really hot today. I'll take some New York weather right now.
It snowed on Sunday into
Deal.
Really? Okay.
Deal.
I would go to the beach.
It was way too hot today. It's freaking March, bro.
Okay. Yeah. You see the pullover, the quarter zip I'm wearing? That's all I own right now. That's all I'm allowed to wear. I haven't worn a t-shirt by itself in months.
I wish I could wear shorts to work. I work in construction, and I do job inspections. I wish I could just go in shorts, but nobody would take you seriously in shorts and a hard hat.
When you're working outside, I guess that's where the
bad, bro. Let me tell you, bad.
Empathy.
Beach is one thing. Beach is great. Outside labor.
Fair point. Okay, so then you've actually given me an on-ramp, an off-ramp, I guess. So maybe even an on-ramp to this conversation. Yeah. To the Jimmy Butler. I don't want to trade Jimmy Butler on this pod. I don't want to make that a focal point. just literally last night, host of our regular pod, John Macri, and I got into it during one of our playback watch parties because we both see the state of the Miami Heat. And while we're respectfully afraid of what they might do in the playoffs if matched up against the team because of the playoff pedigree and what Jimmy Butler becomes in the postseason, we got to talking about whether Jimmy Butler wanted to go play for an old coach of his, Tom Thibodeau, if that were the opportunity were to present itself. And my stance on this was that Pat Riley's not trading anybody to the Knicks. The two teams have made one transaction in their histories, and it was Pat Riley to the Miami Heat.
Is that the only one?
It's the only time they've ever made a transaction.
So funny.
It's that trade, I guess it was a 1997 or 1998 first round pick. So that's it, which became Walter McCarty. So it's Walter McCarty for Pat Riley is the only time the Knicks have made a trade with the Miami Heat. So I'm curious, am I wrong on this, that Riley wouldn't even consider the Knicks in this? And it's, would he look at Houston? If this Harden thing is real, would he, in Houston was like, all right, we're ready to contend now. Would we go sell off the Nets picks and some of our own for Jimmy Butler? Would there actually be a path where Riley would consider like RJ Barrett and another young player and picks for Jimmy Butler? So
I'll say this about Pat. I mean, Pat's done deals with the Celtics and has has talked with their front office to do deals. And with Utah after we know Riley's history with Danny Ainge as a player, as a coach, as an executive, to the point that he told him, I don't remember if I'm allowed to curse on the show or not.
You're allowed to. Yeah,
when he said, shut the fuck up and worry about your own team, and he put it in company letterhead. I don't know if everybody remembers that back in the day. So, I mean, if Pat can call up Danny and do deals and can do deals with the Celtics, I don't think there's anybody that he hates more.
Than Danny Ainge. Okay,
I think so. No, then the Celtics just in general.
Just the Celtics in general.
Just the nebulous, considering the battles as a player and as a coach, right? Like that goes deep. So, I don't think the Knicks have the facilities for that big man, as that meme goes. But okay. They've never had to do this. Andrew, the only player the only star that they've traded that asked out was Shaq. And that was an over-the-hill Shaq, and they flipped him for Marion and stuff. And Sean Marion, the time was good, and helped Miami and stuff like that. And I think they clearly kind of pivoted to 2010 for that rebuild to have a bunch of cap space. So I don't even know what he would look for. I don't think that Pat is going to sit around for another rebuild. He's like 90 years old. And that's done. Like, that's legitimately, like, he's not gonna tear down for picks. I think if it could go one of two ways. If they do decide at one point to rebuild and tear it down, and if Jimmy asks out, I think that what they try to do is kind of in a way what San Antonio tried to do was trade Kawhi for like good players. Obviously, the drop off between Kawhi and DeMar DeRozan is a title, as we saw. But it'd be something like that. It'd be like, can I get like good players and a couple picks for Jimmy? And I don't think if the Knicks have a package, then they have a package. I don't look at New York's team and be like, I want that. It's kind of like how Heat fans try to like, who wants Tyler Hero? And it's like, nobody. Same with RJ Barrett. It's like, I feel like Knicks fans are like, okay, well, he's like a young promising player. Who wants him? And like, the answer is kind of nobody.
Yeah.
And I think Miami kind of looks at that way. And also just like, I think what's more valuable nowadays are picks that aren't your own, right? Because if you trade a guy over there, they're going to be good. You want like, a Kings pick used to be valuable, but not like a Minnesota pick or something like that. So not out of the question, Andrew, but for sure, I don't see it happening. Riley will never make that decision. That has to be like Jimmy makes a stink and wants out, which I doubt. I don't know if Jimmy can do that again.
You don't think so?
I don't know if he can. I don't know if his reputation would let him. Maybe he's done enough to repair it, but I don't know. I don't think you remember how ugly that got in Minnesota.
I do, which is why I think that's the other element of this that I'd be confused by. I have no idea what the relationship is with Tibbs and Jimmy Butler. Tibbs was forced to trade him. That was the coach and the GM at the time when Jimmy made that stink in Minnesota. I don't even know where he'd want to go. I mean, again, this is like incredibly hypothetical because he hasn't asked out. If anything, where he's pretty recent of like, I want to be here. I want to win a title with Jimmy, with Bam and Tyler. That was a month ago, right? Like, obviously a lot can change in a month, but
I think he's here. I think he'll retire here. I honestly think that he won't ask out. This is a place he's had the most success. They've made a finals. They were a shot away from the finals. He has a legit 2 young players to kind of grow and kind of help bridge the gap as he ages into Supermax. And also, like, who wants to take a Supermax contract? That's like not an easy thing to move. And if you're Miami, you might just eat that instead of like having to give stuff up. Like Westbrook, people have had to give stuff up with Westbrook, and not that Jimmy's Westbrook, but like, that's not going to look good in a couple of years. So there's that element as well.
Well, thank you for entertaining that conversation with me. I, as someone who has had players that I've liked be talked about as like, oh, they should trade this, they should trade that. Now, granted, it's not to the extent where any of these players have led me to an NBA finals and a conference finals. But look, as far as the vibes in Miami are concerned, you are well known as a Kyle Lowry apologist.
Lifer, if you will.
Well, look, the Kyle Lowry lifer. Wow. It's that deep, huh?
My favorite player, man.
Okay. Well, the fact that he's been out for a while and people have had to redirect their ire and their frustration at kind of everybody else on the team. If you had to pinpoint a player, a coach, a thing that is being given the same energy that Kyle Lowry was being given during this stretch without Kyle, who would it be, or what would it be?
Andrew, Heat Twitter has become very agenda oriented, and I haven't liked that about the fan base this year. And
can I stop you for a second? Mm-hmm. I think you could take the word heat out of that. Twitter
probably just NBA Twitter.
Yeah, NBA Twitter.
Agenda centric, and it's like, how can I cape for my guy?
Mm-hmm.
Right, and it's like, like some people liked Gabe Vincent. Like one of my co-hosts, she doesn't do this. Siobhan Beslow, one of the smartest people. Happy International Women's Month,
yes.
Or Women's Month. Yeah, Siobhan does played professionally in other countries. She's like a legit hooper, knows the game, loves Gabe Vincent, everything he brings. And it's not like Bond is like tearing Kyle down to bring Gabe up. But people are doing stuff like that. Like people that like Gabe Vincent will be like, Gabe has to start, Kyle sucks ass. And then when now they're losing with Gabe as a starter, they kind of redirect, well, why is Tyler's production really bad since the turn of the year? Or like, it's never like accountability for like your own guy. Like, I have to be here and like Kyle played like shit. And I have to be like, man, listen, it's not looking good, man. Like my guy's a little thick coming off a hamstring injury. It doesn't like, sometimes you got to eat your vegetables, but there's not one guy that has like gotten it. Kyle was the easy target because Duncan was it last year. Duncan was the guy last year that got nailed, but now Duncan's out of the rotation, so you can't really blame him. And then Kyle was the guy playing with the bloated contract and not playing well. And everybody was just mad at him, and then all his lineup data was bad. Now Gabe's lineup data is like going to hell because like he's obviously not like a real starting point guard in the NBA. And now everyone's like kind of confused. And it's just like some people are like, well, Oladipo's been bad. Other people are like, I told you Gabe sucks. Other people's like, why is Max skating? Max Strus. Other people are like, Bam hasn't been the same guy since All-Star break. So everybody is like all over the place in kind of like their own little take hill. And that's kind of what it's like right now. Which is why the vibes are so rancid.
I can imagine this. Obviously not same one-to-one comparisons here, but it's like 2 years ago when the Knicks had that 4-seed season, right? Yeah. Elfrid Payton started the majority of the games and no one could understand it. It was just like a thing Tibbs was comfortable with. He would end up sitting the rest of the like basically Derrick Rose would come in with like 8 minutes left, with like 2 minutes left in the first quarter, and then sit the rest of the first half. Then he'd come in with 4 minutes left in the third quarter and play the rest of the second half. And it was like, this is a 17-minute player that you refuse to sit. And the lineup data says he's been so detrimental in those 17 minutes that every time Derrick Rose comes in, it's to play from behind with this bench unit. And everybody directed their ire and hatred at Elfrid Payton to the point where I actually felt bad for him. And then the following season with Payton gone, those problems still existed, and Randall started missing his long twos, and Tibbs still had the same rigidity with his rotations, and everybody got made to be the scapegoat. And I think this season, what's been different is all of those things that start to be fixed to an extent. But I can understand that, like, when there's one big scapegoat that everybody's directing their attention at, once that's gone and you have to, and the problem still exists, you then have to, find something else to identify. I wonder, and listen, this is as somebody who hasn't been able to actually watch the Heat yet with Kevin Love. I wonder where Kevin Love would fall on that. So fill me in. What does Kevin Love look like in the first couple of games with the Miami Heat?
I think it's too early to either give him criticism or praise, but I've liked really the guy that I think everyone's super on board with is Cody Zeller. Kind of Miami's backup center situation has been a disaster.
Hey, you're saying that the last time you were here, yeah.
He's guy that is legit, look good, stabilize them, is an NBA player, doesn't ruin things like Dedmon did or like, poor Orlando Robinson who's a little too green for that. But everybody's really liked Cody Zeller, I think, pretty universally. Kevin has been, I think mostly positive. I think, I think you saw the upside against Philly on the road, not this game that they lost by a million points, but when they were on the road, I think you kind of saw a guy that can play make, space the floor, give you hit ahead passes, especially the way that Miami forces turnovers. You want a guy like that who can kind of get guys in stride, make these smart basketball plays. There was one play that he made so they play him very high up at the level of the pick and roll on defense, similar to how Denver uses Jokic. Right. Miami will blitz sometimes, but they just like playing Kevin really high up and they really want to force a turnover. They press hard and they don't want him in a drop to give up more threes because they already give up enough threes. They go on Harden. It's him and Caleb Martin, and Kevin jumps a gap and forces a turnover. And Kevin has such great hands. He's able to kind of get the turnover, get the ball, and get Caleb Martin in stride for a dunk. And it's just little things like that. It's not even the forcing of the turnover. It's the being able to get the ball of it not going out of bounds and then give like a one-handed pass in like one motion to Caleb to kind of score as defenses are like racing to get back. And those 2 points he basically secured. And it's little things like that they just haven't had. Gives them a pick and pop element as well. They haven't explored it too much. He's still standing in the corner some, which they've needed. Gives them a little pump and go, which again, they just haven't had any of this kind of dynamic. So I like him. I think most people are just kind of like whatever, or they like him. It's not one way or the other yet, but for sure, he breathes a little bit of life, him and Zeller, into what felt very stale.
So I want to be transparent here. I got Cleaning the Glass, the Heat lineup data in front of me. They're on off stats. And I guess I read the wrong line. I had the Dedmon stat, which is why I was asking if any ire had been pointed at.
He's bad. Dedmon's bad.
Yeah, minus 15 in his 350 minutes. What I should have read was in the 93 minutes with Kevin Love that Cleaning the Glass is tracked, plus 18 and a half. So that actually would lead to your point that he actually has been a positive in the minutes that he's played so far with Miami this season. Were you a fan of the trade of the acquiring him when they despite the fact that Cleveland had taken him out of the rotation, you were like, this is still somebody that could be useful?
Yeah. You know what's funny about Kevin is that he and Bam together are minus 20 per 100 possessions, but Love without Bam is plus 18.
Really?
It's plus 68, excuse me.
Plus 68?
68 net rating.
Oh, net rating.
For 100 possessions, for 100 possessions. Yeah. So kind of funny how the starters together haven't looked like super great, but I don't know. I like him. I think I was happy. I think they needed a change. I think they needed something new. It felt stale. You could tell that they all thought it was stale. And I thought he was a different enough kind of player to give them the dynamic that they needed. So I was a fan. I mean, it was also like the best move that they could have made. Like, I don't think Nerlens Noel changes your life or whatever. Like, I think Zeller and Love were like the two correct moves to make. And they traded Dedmon with the second round pick to make the cap space to do that so that they can get under the tax, not the cap space, but to get under the tax. So not the most exciting thing in the world, but certainly.
No, but listen, you're talking to someone in Knicks land where like how many minutes Jericho Sims plays is like some of the more.
He played well against Miami. I remember you were just like, I don't know about this guy, and I'm like, I was watching, and I was like, fucking Andrew, bro.
Yeah. Well, so he's a second-year player that was taken 57th overall, so he's gonna have moments. He's clearly earned a rotation spot.
I felt bamboozled. I was like, I can't believe Andrew just sat there and lied to me like a sucker. All his whole audience is like, look at this guy, believe in him.
Listen, here's the thing about the Jericho Simses of the world, the Deuce McBrides of the world. The Knicks have found something, guys that can play in NBA rotations in the second round, which is like value in the margins. So very good teams do, right? They are also second round picks. So there's going to be a game like you saw where he looked great and was an impact on winning. Then there are other games where you're reminded why he was taken 57th overall or 58th overall, one of the last 4 picks. Mitchell Robinson is back, though, and Sims is out of the rotation. And since Josh Hart came, Deuce McBride is out of the rotation, although Mitch was a second-round pick. So that's another found value in the late in the draft. With the positivity that you seem to be seeing with the 2 new additions, Zeller and Kevin Love, and with... Look, I saw you tweet earlier about anybody.
They're by the way, they're 1-3 since the deadline.
They are, but
can't be too positive.
The lineup data, there's inklings of a positive upswing on the horizon, right? So this is me trying to make some lemonade. Don't worry. With the chance of positivity, where are you right now? Do you think there is another run in this team? You're 33-30 in the play-in. Do you see another run up? I was mentioning that on Twitter earlier today. I don't know who was saying this, but they'd rather have Randall over Jimmy Butler. And I just want to personally say I've been very happy with how Julius Randle has played this season. I am not part of that.
Don't associate.
I'm just not in that camp.
That was in response to Zach Lowe because.
Oh, I didn't hear this. What did he say?
He didn't say the Randall thing specifically, but he was like, he just thought New York was better than Miami. And I'm like, Miami's going through a bit of a downswing right now. Like, you know, they're this is the worst stretch of their season right now. And then New York's kind of playing well. But I think, Andrew, I mean, if we're being real, like if Miami and New York were to play in a 7-game series, like I think we know how this ends.
I got to be honest with you. I'd take the Knicks in that series.
I think you're crazy.
The way the Knicks are playing right now, it's hard not to.
Miami has the 2 best players in the series, by far.
I'm not sure.
I'm not a big Randall guy. And
it's not the Randall thing I'm talking about. Jalen Brunson thing.
Jalen Brunson's cute, but
the player of the month, Jalen Brunson.
Oh, wow.
His full name.
Remember when the Atlanta Hawks, all of them were player of the month?
All 5 of them.
Yeah. That's what that award means to me.
Okay.
But no, I mean, I was just like, we've seen what Jimmy can do in the playoffs, when you can lock in and key on a guy. It's kind of funny for me to come and sit here after whatever the fuck happened yesterday. It's, kind of egg on my face. And I think New Yorkers have every right to be like, who's this fat fuck? And he's an idiot and make fun of me. Cause I can't come on here after I talk shit and I can't come on here after that. I can't look at the camera with a straight face and be like, yeah, bro, we're better than you. I mean, probably not right now. I don't know, but I do think so. Miami has these games against New York coming up. They have 3 more. This Friday game is huge. If you're a good team, you win this game. And I think from both sides too. I think if New York's a good team, they win this game, right? And if Miami's a good team, they fucking win this game. You just got punked at home. This game's in Miami, I believe. And you just got punked at home by a team without their MVP. You had a really good show and you thought that, okay, we figured something out. And this team's coming in. You need this game if you want to get out of the play-in. Brooklyn's kind of in free fall right now, but I think you want this game against the Knicks. I think ideally you want to get to 5. And I think there's a path for Miami to get to 5. And it starts with beating this team. If they lose this game, it's a wrap.
That would put them 4.5 behind.
They'd be a play-in or at best 6 and without the tiebreaker against Brooklyn. So you need this game and a good team goes in and wins that game. Now, Andrew, my relationship with this team changed when they went into Dallas a couple months ago and they lost. They had put together a stretch where I'm like, okay, they're finally playing well. Look at that. They have a bunch of wins, a couple really good home wins against good teams sprinkled in there. You're going on the road on national TV against one of the MVP like front runners in Luka Doncic. And you're going into a team with kind of on a similar tier as you. You have a similar record. They have a better player. You're going into their home court. You got to win that game. and good teams win that game. They lost by like 35. And I'm like, that kind of showed me who they are. I do think they're better than New York only because their top end talent's better. And I think that New York as a roster has like, they just have a more complete team because Miami really is fielding a bunch of undrafted guys. And you might say, oh, what a story. Miami finds Heat fans are sick of that shit. And they're undrafted for a reason. And I think they kind of show you why. So obviously Jimmy changes the dynamic of a series. You know, I think we've seen, you know, very inadequate Heat teams in terms of kind of talent, what he's done with them, you know, he and Bam. But I think in a series against New York, I think that, you know, especially Bam has done a great job on Randall. I think they have enough defenders at the point of attack for Jalen Brunson. And I think I don't know if New York really has good answers for Jimmy Butler. I know like sometimes it's like RJ Barrett and like that doesn't like move me in any way. And I think that their big rotation is a little suspect as well. Now Miami's shooting has just been non-existent. So I think New York can get away with the drop. Whereas, you know, last year that was just not an option against this team. You could not drop because they had so many drop killers, whether it's off handoffs, whether it's off pick and roll, whether it's off any kind of inverted action that they love to run on the perimeter. You know, they would absolutely, that's why they were always so good against the Bucks, even prior to them making the finals, because they just loved that kind of coverage. And now, and I know New York runs a ton of that with their bigs, they don't have that element anymore. So it kind of lets the Knicks get away with a lot more on defense and playing, I think, guys that could get picked on more.
Yeah, I gotta be honest, it's tough for me to have this conversation rationally because of how the Knicks have played lately.
Of course.
I do not know what this team losing with Josh Hart looks like. And I'm not even trying to say he's the thing that has made them,
but you know, man, sometimes
be this juggernaut. However,
it just takes one guy to put everything into place for things to make sense.
That's exactly it. Every single person has fallen into place. They've finally found a closing lineup that everybody on the court I trust. RJ hasn't been closing games. Quentin Grimes hasn't been closing games. And that's honestly
not Grimes.
That's not an indictment on Grimes or on RJ. It's a credit to what Josh Hart brings and what Emmanuel Quickley, who in my opinion is the sixth man of the year, should be and have been this season. So I'm at the point where, look, you're right. If the Knicks are as advertised, they'll go into Miami and win this game. It's funny you mentioned the drop coverage being like okay to play against Miami, because look, if Miami decides that night like we're going to be hot from three, then it might actually be like a game the Knicks struggle in, because it plays right into the Knicks' strengths how poorly the Heat shoot. The Heat and how much zone they play had been a Knicks Achilles heel. That's how you played Deuce McBride off the court, or these like Obi Toppin when he's having an off night, or when they were going with the Jericho Sims, Isaiah Hartenstein, Deuce McBride, three of those guys on the court at once in the second unit, teams will switch to a zone and they just like had no answer for it. Since acquiring Josh Hart, they have many answers for it, and Tibbs is staggering much more. And so I wonder if the zone is going to be as effective as it was the first time they played each other. So yeah, I'm curious if the Knicks are as advertised and are actually a new team, and this thing is real. If they can go, this would be a statement win going into Miami and taking on a team that is, like you said, competing with them in this same little cluster. Are they still in that cluster? Or are the Knicks headed more to a 4 seed? You know?
Oh, 4 seed is that's quite lofty.
They are a half game behind. They are a game and a half behind the Cleveland Cavaliers, sir.
Is it like that?
They are one game in the loss column behind the Cleveland Cavaliers.
That is crazy. Good for you guys.
Yeah. That's why I'm trying to be like,
Cleveland went on like a run.
Yeah. They had a winning streak right before the All-Star break, and then they lost a couple.
Now they're 6-4. Yeah, New York City.
Yeah. And then this is why it's tough to have this rationally. Knicks fans, there's some being like, so what does Philly have to do in order for us to get the 3 seed? Now, I'm not there. I think the 4 seed is absolutely.
You don't think that New York's not going to play at a 9-1 pace to end the season. You know what I mean? Like, they're going to come down to earth. So
how do I know that? They're on a 54 win pace since December 4th.
Let me tell you a little something about Hart's numbers, because I was just looking at them because they were a little jarring. When he's on the court, the Knicks are plus 26 net rating
ridiculous.
for 100 possessions. Yeah, 134 offensive rating. The thing that I look at is, opponent 3-point percentage is 29%. That is a little random. And so before that, it's about 35%, about 36%. It's the 29%. I think that will come to earth a bit. They're shooting 42%, 41-ish% from three themselves, as opposed to 34 without Josh Hart. So basically, before Josh Hart got there, they were 34%, almost 35% from three, pretty bad.
And to go a step further, when he showed up, he was like a 32% 3-point shooter, and he's been Klay Thompson since then, since being here. I don't think he's that. I do think a regression is coming. I also think he has other ways to beat you than being Klay
for sure.
Thompson,
I'm looking at like how real is that? How sustainable? Not how real. I don't want to do that to I want to be impartial here, but how sustainable is kind of the play that they're doing? And I look at, okay, well, I think opponents will shoot a little bit better from three. And I think that they will probably shoot a little bit worse because they don't become the best 3-point shooting team because Josh Hart arrived. They're kind of going through a hot stretch. So that's kind of where I'd be with them.
So let me counterpoint the game on Monday against Boston. Now, granted, Boston didn't have Jaylen Brown, although you're a numbers guy. The advanced stats on Jaylen Brown do not like him, and the on-off also doesn't like him either. Not saying that that's not a factor in why the Knicks won that game. But in that game, Boston made an effort to play zone and to switch and to double Jalen Brunson as often as possible and double Julius Randle as often as possible. Brunson, Randle, RJ all had off night shooting, and the Knicks still won by 15. We're up by double digits the entire game.
And, for sure.
And that's the game that I was like, oh, maybe this is more sustainable than I thought, because that was the off night we were all waiting for, to see how they respond. And against the best team in the NBA, record-wise, they responded extremely well. So that's where, I don't know, you're right, though. I am very curious against the Miami Heat team that you have the chance to put a nail in a coffin here.
They do.
Go into Miami and do it. And that will tell me a lot.
I don't know the Knicks road record. Are they a good road
One
team?
of the best in the NBA. They have the second most road wins in the NBA.
Fascinating. Okay, well, yeah. So, Heat they're 19-11 at home. Whatever. The Knicks are only 19-15 at home. That's funny. Are they better on the road?
So
they are better on the road. That's so funny.
Again, second most road wins in the NBA. It was actually a problem for a while that they couldn't.
Yeah. Well, that's usually kind of the knock on teams like that. Like
especially with the Garden. Everybody wants to come in and put on a show. Yeah.
That must suck for you guys.
No, I mean a little bit. We're starting to get the Saturday night bump. Like who'd they play this weekend? Well, they played New Orleans on Saturday night, and by the second quarter, we do a betting segment called Betting and Sweating. Shout out Walt Clyde Frazier. And I took an alternate line and was like, I'll take Knicks minus 10.5. Like this, there's no way this is a close game. Like I talked to Mason Ginsberg, who covers the Pelicans, Mason. And he was like, yeah, this is not a good Pelicans team. This is you might look at their Pythagorean. Zion left. You literally just have to look at January 2nd when Zion went down. They're the fourth worst team in the NBA.
I know that they've had other injuries, but it's crazy. Like they just nose dive.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So, well, I was this is usually when I give my guest the floor to see if he has questions or if they have any thoughts about the Knicks. But I think I know most of your thoughts about the Knicks. Do you have any, how much have you paid attention to this winning streak and what they've been since the break? Or, I mean, I know Zach Lowe again made a take and you reacted to it, but how are you feeling about New York coming into this game on Friday?
Listen, they have, they've had some cute little results. I can't they beat Miami. I think that started the streak, didn't it?
That was
because they lost to the Clippers right after.
Right.
Yeah, they have a Philly win, where Embiid played,
and Harden.
The two of
that
those.
Clipper game, by the way,
was close.
Batum hit a 3 to tie it to send it into overtime. They're a rebound away from being, I believe it's 12-1 in their last 13.
So in this stretch, you have 2 Philly wins and a Boston win without Jalen. So some bad teams: Atlanta, the Pelicans, Washington, Brooklyn. Utah, which is kind of really taking a hit. Orlando, which is a sneaky hard team to beat. By the way, I think a win against Orlando. Yeah. I think people kind of look at that and yawn, but I think that's a good team, and I think that they don't have the NBA experience, but that's not a game that you can just roll over. Like you can't sleepwalk through that game. And that sounds so lame to say, but it's real. Like I actually give the Knicks credit for that one, probably more than the Atlanta game. Like to me, that's a more impressive win.
Yeah, they kind of put the nail in Nate McMillan that night. They went into Atlanta in the next game. Then that was the last game before the break, and then he got fired in 4 days.
So a bit of like I think a pretty normal NBA schedule. I don't think it's overly soft or overly difficult. I think it's like kind of an NBA schedule, right? It's not like a crazy stretch, but like again, a win against Brooklyn, I think is important. As your rival and stuff like that. And Atlanta team kind of around one of your peers, right? Technically like kind of in standing wise. So I don't believe in them long term. I think. I also don't think they're really built for the postseason. I don't like Jalen Brunson. I'm not really like too.
Really?
Yeah. I'm not
what don't you like?
I'm not like a fan of him defensively. I think that he's a good player. Like I don't think he's bad, but I'm okay with not having him. And I think that he's a regular season guy. I think you kind of saw his deficiencies in the playoffs last season.
I think Donovan Mitchell saw his efficiencies in the playoffs last season.
He played well that series, but I think when it kind of counted, you kind of saw that fell apart a little bit.
They won the series. The only series they lost was the
No, I know the series after that. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, he played well.
They beat Phoenix.
Yeah, he played well.
Okay.
And I thought after that, it kind of got exposed a little bit for him. I think he's like a tier 3 star kind of guy, not like that all NBA guy. I don't think he's like really in that all-star, he's kind of like
think he's in that all-star. Now Knicks fans are coming after you.
Probably.
They're going to come after you.
That's fine. They can come after me. Like there's a ton of really good players in the league. Like Jimmy didn't make the all-star team this year. Like, you know what I mean? Like it's hard to make the all-star team.
No. That was a game. He would have been an all-star if he had the games.
I kind of thought that was bullshit because tons of guys who made the all-star team had like Jimmy had more games than them, but I think that narrative got out of control and I don't think people looked, but regardless. And I think that they don't want to give the Heat 2 all-stars. Just, I understand. And I think Bam deserved it more than Jimmy at the time. I thought Jimmy was probably impact metrics like Jimmy more, but I thought Bam deserved it just as an overall thing. So I'm not mad at him not making it. I think he should have made it, but I also understand the 2 all-stars thing. I think the Heat just fucking suck. And I think those are the only 2 like NBA players at times because Hero is another guy that's always hurt. But yeah, I think Brunson's a good player. And like, I don't want to make this like, because I'll be a hater on Twitter and I'll do the whole rah performance thing. But I also want to keep it real and I'm on your show and I respect you a ton, but I think Brunson's a good player. I think that's a great signing for New York, by the way. I think it was one of the best signings of the offseason. I think he's exactly what they needed. I think he's in a great situation for him where he can kind of do what he does best and he can help a team win. And he's obviously impacting winning. He's not like doing this for fucking Charlotte, right? He's doing this for a team that is like one game that is competing for like a playoff spot. Like he's at almost 24 a game. Not turning the ball over a lot. He only has 2 turnovers a game for kind of how much he handles, which is like pretty good. And he's shooting the ball well too. So all that stuff, like he's good. He's not a bad defender. I do think he has like some problems, but I think he's good. He's not that kind of floor raiser, and I was talking about this with my co-host today about like Jimmy's like a tier 1.5 kind of guy. You know what I mean? Like he's not like, he's not like one of the MVP candidates, but he's like a really good player, right? He's going to be in that all NBA conversation almost every year, but he's also not like in the second star kind of tier with like Jaylen Brown and guys like that. You know what I mean? Like he's like a step above them, but like below the Tatums, the Jokic, you know what I mean? Kind of like that middle area. I think like Devin Booker's a guy that's like best player on a team, not really an MVP candidate, but like can lead your team to like playoff success. I kind of think that that's like where those guys are. And
I'm realizing now what you meant by tier 3, and it doesn't sound as crazy. If the way you're doing
I want to be fair to Jalen, and I want to be fair to the players because I know all these guys like play hard, work their ass off. Like like if I'm doing like my fantasy tier thing, be like those MVP guys and that tier 1.5, Paul George, Jimmy, Damian Lillard, right, Devin Booker. Then you have like the second star guys, right, like Jaylen Brown. Raptor fans would hate me for putting Pascal Siakam here, but like guys like Siakam and like kind of those kinds of players. And then you kind of have your other guys like your Randalls, your Brunsons, right? Like those kind of fringe all-star guys that are not like, okay, like this guy, like the guys you write in pencil, not pen, in your conversation kind of way. So I don't want to be disrespectful to on the timeline. I will be though.
On the timeline
for your audience.
Yeah,
I will be professional on a show because Andrew is great at what he does, and you guys should listen, subscribe. If you're on Apple, give Andrew a review. You know that 5 stars goes a long way. Help my guy out. But on the timeline, it's all slander all day. That arena smells like urine and rats munching on the carpet. It smells bad, Andrew. Don't lie to me. You've been there. We've all been there. We've all been there. I love New York City. New York City, one of the greatest places on earth. It's amazing. That arena smells like a dump.
I think it's gotten. Listen, I'm not going to.
I don't like touching stuff in there. I feel like a COVID variant comes out of that building every time there's a game.
And it's the entire league looks forward to going there every time. This shows by the
because the ceiling. The ceiling's nice.
That ceiling
they tricked you guys, and the organ guy who's
better
awesome.
than the Sistine Chapel. That ceiling.
Yeah, you know what I mean. It's
I don't know what to respond to first. I think Jalen Brunson is in that second tier. I think he's a second star.
You think he's like in the Jaylen Brown?
I would take him above Jaylen Brown.
At
this point.
That's
dude. You're an impact metrics guy. Like the numbers hate Jaylen Brown this season. The on-off metric. Now I will say I'm
not a huge Jaylen Brown guy either.
Mm-hmm.
But
I would take. Listen, maybe call me a homer if you want. You would talk about a floor raiser where the Knicks were last year and where the Knicks are this year. The big difference is
it's
Jalen
Josh
Brunson.
Hart apparently.
Well, I would say it's Jalen Brunson, but you might be on to something that his college teammate Josh Hart might actually have something to do with it. However, Julius Randle made the All-Star team because the Knicks acquired Jalen Brunson, and Randle didn't have to do everything. And there's more gravity on the other side of the court instead of solely focusing on him.
Okay, can I ask?
Then you go to his clutch stats, and it's night and day. It's only De'Aaron Fox has more clutch points. Yeah, what's up?
Okay, so would you take Brunson over De'Aaron Fox? Not who you want on the Knicks, but who do you think's better?
Who do I think's better?
Yeah,
I think it's about the same at this point this year.
Do you think Brunson or Karl Anthony Towns?
Oh, give me. There's a non-calculatable, if that's a word, dog in him.
DIH.
Yeah. Yeah, there's that stat that I would rather have.
Cat has negative DIH. I don't know.
Yes, very much so. While I am empathetic to what he's been through over the past couple of years, especially through COVID.
Yeah, shut up.
I would rather build a team around Jalen Brunson than Karl Anthony Towns, especially since I've seen a team.
I think that's crazy, but
Jalen Brunson,
Donovan Mitchell.
But I will say Jalen Brunson in a series against Donovan Mitchell, I will get his points. As Trae Young last year in the playoffs.
Trae Young or Jalen Brunson?
I can't answer that question.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, I forgot. We'll skip that.
Yeah.
Bradley Beal or Jalen Brunson? I don't think Bradley Beal's
Jalen Brunson. At this point in their careers, Jalen Brunson.
Yeah. Pascal Siakam or Jalen Brunson?
Pascal Siakam. But that's a different
the
height
Brunson.
of Shai Gilgeous-Alexander.
Yeah. Come on, bro.
Probably SGA.
Come on.
There's something to what Jalen Brunson has done for See, here's the thing I'm trying to do in my head is if the Knicks had traded for SGA before the season instead of acquiring Jalen Brunson, would I have the same feelings I have right now for Jalen Brunson?
Yeah, you'd probably be saying SGA should be MVP.
I probably would be.
He's so fucking good.
Which is why I'd probably lean SGA, but my point is it's not like it's the way
Paul
he's
George
this season.
Paul George.
Here's where I'm gonna really upset you. Give me Jalen Brunson. I'm not because I'm also factoring in the contract and the age and how
I'm just asking who's better. I just want to know who's better. I don't want contract.
But there's more to that conversation than just availability matters. He's missed 2 games.
Availability is fine. If you want to include availability, that's totally fair. But I just mean this year, regardless of contract, who you think is better. And you've already said he's better than Jimmy and Bam. So
I would say he's better than Jimmy and Bam. I do think you did the playoff argument there. They have the best 2 players. And
you said no. And so
I think Jalen Brunson would be at the end of that series. We'd be like, wow, Jalen Brunson led the Knicks to a victory over the Heat. That's where I think that's how I think that series would go. I think
so. You have him above Jimmy. So you have him. I won't put words in your mouth. I won't put words in your mouth. Is he better than Bam?
Bam's really good. That's the tough part.
Bam's put it together on offense too.
And that's the thing that we noticed the last time they played each other is like, oh, this is Kevin Garnett down the stretch. Got it.
So we call him kind of unstoppable. Idris Garnett.
Yeah, kind of unstoppable down the stretch. I think they're all in the same tier. I think Randall, like,
what a cop out.
It's less of a because I don't think it matters if the Heat have the two best players in this sense. Because
I just wanted to know where you're at with Jalen Brunson. I wanted to pinpoint.
I think he should make an All NBA team. That's where I am right now. I think he's the most improved player of the year. Yes, I think he's the most improved player of the year.
Luka.
I think he's it helps that he's the Steph. Get out of here with the games played, by the way.
Steph, Luka. Then you have like Booker, Shai.
Games played matters, especially since SGA is about to miss the rest of the season because Sam Presti hates when his players play games.
That is funny.
You know,
Harden.
I'm going back to games played, especially since the Knicks are about to catch the Sixers in the standings.
Well, Harden's been available. He started off slow, but he's been available ever since. He's been very good, and the impact.
He has been very good. That's why it's tough to split hairs here. So
he's not like James Harden, but he's been some sort of facsimile of himself. Mm-hmm. No, I just wanted to get where your head was at with Jalen Brunson. See where Knicks fans feel about him. I think that's crazy, but I'm happy that y'all have a guy to be crazy.
I'm happy for you.
I'm happy, as a peer, as someone I respect in the industry, I'm happy that you have this.
I'm very happy as well that you don't have this, and that
you guys are way happier than we
are trending the other direction.
I will say this though: if the Heat were having the season the Knicks were having, Heat fans would be still fucking pissed.
Oh, really?
They'd be pissed. They'd see
like if the Heat were 37-37.
They say this is pitiful and an embarrassment. We should be a top 3 seed. I think if they had the season New York had, maybe if they traded for like a Josh Hart, they might talk themselves into it. But I think we've talked about this like on our show and on Twitter. The Knicks fans are celebrating what Heat fans will call a failure of a season.
So that's the nuts part, especially since the context of what the Knicks have been since December 4th.
I think that
it changes what the season looks like.
I think that the Knicks, even if they have regular season success, I think that we know that they don't have championship equity.
Championship equity is different than playoff run equity. I think that's the hairs that we're.
I don't think they can win 2 series.
I don't think they can either. I don't think they can.
And for the record, I don't think Miami can either. Like, I don't want to come off as like some dumbass homer. Like I've been saying on my pod, I was like, if the Heat can win a series and they can only win series against, I think, the Sixers and the Cavs. And the only reason I picked the Cavs is because they might get like hit with like playoff inexperience because a lot of those guys have never been in that situation and all the Heat guys have. Philly, because I just like the matchup. And I know it's funny saying what happened the other day, but I also saw what happened in Philadelphia and I've seen this team do that to Embiid a lot. So, and I wouldn't even pick them in either of those series, by the way. I would pick the other teams, but I think that if there is a scenario, but I think New York is like, they need the correct first round matchup like Miami does. And I just don't see them going. I don't think they can win another one. And that is where Heat fans are mad. Because I think we all know the reality of this ends best case scenario in round 2. And that's a fucking failure for what this should have been.
So then Knicks fans that's the difference. Yeah.
And they're throwing confetti, rightfully so, because and not to I so badly want to shit on them, but I'm on your show and I also I want to be serious. I want to be serious too.
They've been the best team in the NBA for the past 3 months. It's felt like.
Well, no, it's like fans should be excited and happy because the Knicks haven't done anything in a long time. They have one playoff series win in 25 years or some shit, right? So it's like that matters, bro. They have I think Knicks fans have something legit. Wow, our team's competent. It's good. It's winning games against good opponents. We're winning road games, right? We have 2 guys that whether I think about Jalen Brunson or not, whatever I think is relevant, he's a guy that New Yorkers can fucking get behind. They're I love that guy. Oh yeah, that fucking guy is better than your guy, and you believe it, and that matters. At the end of the day, this is sports, and we're supposed to have fun and enjoy it. And it was my thing with the trading Jimmy thing. It's we can be pragmatic about sports and be probably this has run its course, and they probably can't win a title given their cap given their cap and all that stuff. But I don't want to be pragmatic about the things I love. And like, I get to watch like legitimate, like basketball Hercules every night, like do this, like true, like, you know, this fire of the human spirit kind of thing. And I don't want to get rid of that. And I think for New Yorkers, it's the same thing. Like, man, it doesn't matter. Like if we just like flame out in the second round, like you guys have like something to be happy and proud of. And I don't think, as much as I want to shit on it, and I will on the timeline, don't tell anybody, but you know, in like, you know, in an honest setting, I think that you should be happy and proud.
So let me wrap up with this, because I have some experience with this as a Mets fan. That
oh boy,
like, well, just like the Mets having a great season that ends in the let's say the NLCS is looked at as like, wasn't that one of the more fun seasons we've ever watched? And you go across town to the Bronx, and a loss in the NLCS requires you to fire everybody. You know, 30 games up in 500, over 500 in September, and every Yankee fan is miserable because fill in the blank. And I think there's some of that with what you're saying, that the Heat would be miserable if they were 37-27, even playing as well as the Knicks are right now, which is trending upwards, with a path to the 4 seed, right? That I think, because you've experienced playoff success, the regular season doesn't matter as much.
Or coming off playoffs.
Well, coming off of a 1 seed and a 3-pointer away from making the finals. I get it. And this is where I think you're right, in that Knicks fans don't know how to behave right now. So there is some Eastern Conference Finals, like, here we come stuff going on. What I said to somebody last night was like, I think this team's ceiling is a competitive first round with a chance of them to overachieve. Whereas like if you go back to the 2013 team with Melo, they were a 2 seed, won 54 games. My thought was like, their ceiling is the conference finals and losing to the Heat, and they underachieved. They lost in the second round to the Pacers, right? So those are the differences. This team is clearly trending upward. The oldest player in the rotation is 28. Whatever tier you have Jalen Brunson and Julius Randle.
28?
Randle is 28 years old.
Holy shit.
Josh Hart turns 28 next Monday. 28 or 27 next Monday. That's the thing. They pivoted away from the Derrick Roses and the Evan Fourniers and the Taj Gibsons and the Alec Burkses of the world. And this is a young team with controllable contracts that might be able to put some sustained success together, you know?
And they have contracts that they can move.
Yeah. If they need to, like an Anunoby or whoever is available.
Or you might not want to hear this, Jalen Brunson, if something better becomes available.
His godfather is the president of basketball operations. He's not getting traded.
That is so funny.
Yeah. And I got to be honest, I kind of want to be successful with Jalen Brunson going forward.
I love that. And I think that is something that we don't talk about enough in sports, that I want to be successful with this guy. Mm-hmm. And I want to, and I think probably, I don't really know, like with Dwayne Wade, for example, like even when LeBron was here, I always wanted Dwayne to get the recognition, because that was like our guy forever, and still is our guy forever. Like that guy he's more than Pitbull. He walks on water here, right? Like in a way that nobody else does. So I get that. And I think that's really
cool. The Randall thing is complicated, I will say.
You guys turned on Randall. It was really funny. You guys used to talk about Randall the way you talk about Jalen Brunson.
Well, 2 years ago we did. And
people said that Randall was better than Bam. And
one person did.
No, a lot of people acknowledge it. A lot of people did. There were Andrew.
And look, 2 years ago,
you know your people.
Bam.
Don't lie. You know how you people get.
2 years. So let me be clear. I can't say Julius Randle is better than Bam. 2 years ago, he had a better season than Bam Adebayo's season.
I'm sorry. No.
Yes, he did.
The defensive side
he had a Larry Bird type of season. Okay. Mm-hmm. Like, it's one of those things where I'm not saying he is.
He was like runner-up for Defensive Player of the Year.
He was. And Julius Randle did something only Larry Bird and Nikola Jokic have done.
Yeah, but this is a steroid era of basketball where Lauri Markkanen is also putting up a Larry Bird season at Dirk season.
Point, so 2 years later, when we've all adjusted our shot diets, yes, I think 2 years ago. Look, I'm not even defending. Are we going to talk crazy about Lauri Markkanen now? No, I'm just saying
Lauri Markkanen's Dirk. What are we doing? Come on, man.
I am saying 2 years ago, Julius Randle turned into Kevin Durant in the mid-range and made every log two. And it was like, okay, what is this? And then we obviously know what happened in the playoffs and the next season. And it took getting a second piece like a Jalen Brunson. And look, that's, I think, what the most, if we wrap up, what the most exciting thing about this is for Knicks fans. There's reason to believe that they're a player away. And I mean, I hope it's not.
Player away from what?
From contending.
Well, that player I think has to be better than Randall and Brunson.
Right. I'm saying you could trade Randall for it. I'm saying, like, what if Harden goes to Houston and Embiid wants out?
I thought you just said that Jalen Brunson's better than Harden.
I'm saying, what if Harden goes to Houston and then Embiid wants out?
Oh, and then Embiid wants out. Yes. Yeah.
Like they're in pole position, as Bill Simmons put it the other day, for the Embiid sweepstakes.
I don't want Embiid. You can have him.
Deal.
Everyone's like, Heat fans are like, what? And I go,
this has been fun.
You're the best, buddy.
Tell everybody where they can find out your stuff, man.
Find us at MIHeatbeat on Twitter. Find me at GNavas103, where you can find me talking mean. Listen, not really the Knicks. Mostly, I'm focused on the Sixers right now. I am 100% locked into Sixers slander. Occasional Celtics slander, but like mostly like Sixers slander. I only really sideswipe the Knicks if like something inspires me to. So
like Zach Lowe saying like they've been really good lately. Yes.
That's not really my thing. I'm focused on the Sixers. I'm locked in to hating the Sixers. Sometimes the city of Cleveland, they're doing great. They got to get it too. But I'm a hater first and then an analyst second. But we have a lot of fun on our show. Check out Hangover Time. It's our Miami Heat post-game show. I implore you, after you watch any coverage that Andrew does over here, or that anybody does on this side of Knicks, I suggest you check out Hangover Time after the games if you want to catch some Heat Knicks stuff, because we do have a lot of fun. And I think the biggest compliment we get in the comments on our YouTube page is other fans of other teams are like, wow, I'm a fan of this other team, and I laughed and I had so much fun. Even when the Heat lose, we try to have a good time. So please, if you can, slide on over, give us a watch, see what you think, and support Andrew, man. Give like I said, give those 5-star reviews on Spotify, iTunes. I don't know if you're on YouTube there too. Anywhere you can.
Believe me, we are. Yeah.
Listen, you don't understand the fight we do to the algorithm. Congrats on a top 15 pod in America.
Yeah. Congrats, top 15 basketball. Yeah. Thank you, sir. We're trending upwards, just like the New York Knicks.
Keep supporting this man. Keep supporting this man. He deserves it.
Yes. Thank you, sir. Always good to see you, my man, even with the basketball team that you root for.